Hey guys, Jack here from Performance Ground, and today we're going to talk about the best ways to measure your fitness. So why do we want to measure fitness, and why do we want to do these testing batteries? Testing is a key component of the strength and conditioning process. It allows us to reflect on our own programming, see if we've made improvements or regressions, and inform our future programming from there. So when we're doing our testing, we want to follow 3 golden rules. These include validity, reliability, and the order of the testing that we're going through. The reason we're going to do this is to make the results as representative as possible of our individual physical capacity. So the first thing we're going to talk about is validity. So what is it? Validity is basically, are we testing what we're supposed to be testing? So if we've selected a 40-meter sprint test to measure acceleration, is this really going to represent acceleration? Maybe not. What we want to try and do instead is pick a more representative test, for example, a 10-meter sprint, which will measure that increasing rate of velocity rather than top-end speed, which is more likely to be represented in the 40-meter sprint. So if you've used a 40-meter sprint test to measure acceleration, you may find benefits from your training program, but if you're not actually measuring that specific physical capacity of acceleration, then how will you know if your athlete has got better? Selecting a more specific test like a 10-meter sprint will highlight that difference a little bit better, so you can make more informed decisions on whether your training program has been effective or not. Basically, pick the test that most suits the physical capacity that you're trying to measure. So the next thing we're going to talk about is reliability. Are your tests reliable? A good example here is if we take a set of scales and measure your weight on a solid surface, you'll get a good measure of your body mass. If you then take the same scales and move them 3 feet to the right onto a grassy surface, the reading is going to be very different, and it's not going to give you an accurate measure of your body mass. So the main point here is that the environment around us can affect the results that we're going to get. So if we take the 40-meter sprint test as an example again, if we're running into a solid headwind, the result is going to be very different to if we've got a tailwind. So on the subject of reliability, one of the key parameters here is the repeatability of a test and the standardization of a test. So what we've got here behind us now is a jump test using the OptaJump, and Ash is going to come and demonstrate why it's important to standardize these tests. So the first thing we're going to do is just a normal jump test where we're going to land in a strong athletic position. Okay? So he's going to step in, he's going to take his most athletic stance, and he's going to jump as high as he possibly can. Hands on hips, yep, and just jump as high as you possibly can. And he's landing in a nice athletic position there to give an accurate reading of his jump height. If he takes a step back and jumps in again, but this time he's going to land with his knees flexed. Yep, so he's going to tuck his knees up, and he's going to land in a flexed position. And all that's going to do is increase the time he's got off the ground. And with this device, the OptaJump, it's basically estimating your jump height from time off the ground. So if we can manipulate that to increase the time without actually jumping any higher, this is going to give us a slight difference in result that isn't necessarily going to be responsible as a result of our training programs. That's one reason why I want to standardize tests. Other examples will include a sprint test. If you've got a start gate, you need to kind of standardize the height of the timing gate, standardize the distance you start behind or on the line of the timing gate, all to try and keep these results standardized. So all these little differences we can get from testing, that just highlights why it's important to standardize these tests. If we don't standardize, then we can result in quite a few false positives, where if we're doing a test, the test will pick up a difference, even though there is no difference, or false negatives, where a test will not pick up a change when in actual fact there has been a difference. So the third thing we're going to talk about is the order of testing within our testing battery. It's important that we start with our most powerful and explosive movements first, working at the bottom end of the force velocity curve where we're moving low loads very quickly, progressing on to our high load work, which are 1 rep max, our 3 rep max, our 5 rep max, which will tax out the central nervous system and result in fatigue, which would negatively impact any powerful movements that follow afterwards. So a good way of designing this would be to do your flexibility, anthropometry kind of testing first, before moving on to some broad jumps, kind of vertical jumps here, sprint testing, before moving on to some kind of acceleration work and top speed work. Once those are out of the way, then we can start to look at some 1 rep max, 3 rep max, 5 rep max, kind of lifting exercises, and then finishing off with some strength endurance, which might be your pull-ups, maximum push-ups, things like that. And then afterwards, if you've got time, you can go into some more endurance things, so your bleep tests, your yo-yo intermittent shuttle tests, or even a max aerobic speed test. So physical testing is all about following a strict method and removing as many biases as possible to produce an objective result. which will most represent the physical capacities that we're testing. So make sure you're following these 3 golden rules to make the most representative results from your testing battery. Select the test that will test the physical capacity you're wanting to test. Standardize your procedures and make sure you're testing in the same order every single time you repeat these tests. So let us know what you put in your testing batteries. If you've got any questions or comments, leave them in the box below, and we'll see you on the next one.